So let's see what we have on our start file. If you scrub through your timeline, you'll see that you already have the car animated, you have the camera animated, and everything has been already imported. Not only that, but you already have the ground, which is basically just a grid with a material applied to it. You can check the material. You also have some V-Ray dome lights. One is just for background purposes, and the other one is actually doing the light. What else? On the car import, you basically just have your Alembic file being loaded, and you also have the camera animation, same thing, being loaded through an Alembic. This is going to be our starting point. The first thing we're going to do though is actually we're gonna be taking care of the source as usual. Let me just clarify this one. So this null is actually just fixing the scale, because the scale was actually in centimeters for these elements. So these were imported from Maya, if I'm not mistaken, and so we needed to just adjust this to meters, and now we have proper scale in our scene. So we'll start by creating our source. Now, before I start working on our source, we have to keep in mind that we want to have the car going through a smoke column. So we will need a few frames to have the smoke column actually being generated and emitting smoke before the car can actually run into it. So the first step that we're going to be making is offsetting the animation of the car by at least 96 frames, so that we have at least 96 frames to build up a smoke column. And that's pretty straightforward to do. So let's see how we can do that time offset. So here on the car import, if you dive inside on the Alembic, you have the frame. So we can just, instead of, if you click on it, you'll see it's float frame. But we can actually say minus 96 frames. And that way it will only start coming on the 96th frame. You can also, it's never going to report an error in this case, because it is loading everything from a single Alembic file. But if you did had a sequence, and if you didn't want it to throw out an error whenever it didn't found the file, because we are offsetting the animation, so it could be trying to load in a file, a frame number that doesn't exist, you can actually just come here to the missing file, report error, or no geometry, and you could switch it to no geometry, and that way you won't get an error. But in this case, it's not really relevant. So we fixed the car. We have the car animation now starting from frame 96, and we can actually check it out from another view. You'll see that, let me just go out. Okay, so now the animation only starts at frame 96. Now the same thing applies for the camera. We want to do exactly the same thing. So here on the frame, let's do the same thing. So minus 96. And let's see if the camera is actually working properly. So let's go to the camera and let's see if the animation of the camera is offset. So it's not. We actually have two files here, two areas where we can put in this offset. If you dive inside, let me reconnect this. If you dive inside here on this Alembic, you also have to put in here minus 96, and now we should be everything should be properly synchronized, so we don't have any movement. And then after frame 96, we start having the movement, and it stops at around 192, and then we could kind of continue simulating the smoke. In my case, I actually just rendered out up to frame 192. It is kind of a big simulation, so it takes a lot of space, not just time, but also disk space. So I ended stopping it at 192. It's up to you if you want to go let the smoke settle for a bit longer, maybe another second or two. This is being generated at 24 frames per second. So yeah, I guess now we're ready to go and move on to our smoke source.